I said yesterday that I would probably not be posting anymore about this subject, and y'all believed me. Your first mistake. No, I actually didn't feel like I was going to post anything else about this. I did give myself the out that unless something happens that makes me think that maybe something I might have something to offer that would be of interest to some of you. So that's the excuse that I'm using now to talk about this. I want to talk about the movie Being Charlie again. When just to go through a bit of history, when I first heard, when I woke up early in the morning, I guess it was the morning of December 15th, and if I'm off on the date, then forgive me. But I believe it was the 15th. I think the murders took place on the 14th, the evening of the 14th, the early morning of the 15th. When I woke up, in any case, whatever day it was, and I saw what had happened, and I saw that a movie had actually been made by Rob Reiner, co-written by Nick Reiner, about Nick Reiner's struggles with addiction, and that there was a stand-in, there was like a stand-in Nick character, and there was a sort of stand-in Rob character, and that the two of them had gone on this press blitz afterwards, and watching the interviews that they do is very, very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable even knowing, I think even without knowing the direction that things ultimately went. It's uncomfortable. And at first I thought it was uncomfortable because I thought that Rob was trying too hard to sort of smooth things over for Nick, and that, that Rob was being nice dad, good dad, and that Nick was just, this is sort of the consensus, which is, in line with what the consensus is, that Nick was just a brat. Nick was just, born into luxury, born into opulence, born into fame, and just still couldn't hack it. Where so many of us good salt of the earth types, like myself, I do not include myself among them. I'm not a good salt of the earth type, but so many of us go out and we bust our asses every day, and we didn't have millions of dollars. We didn't have a trust fund. We didn't have a famous dad who made a bunch of blockbuster movies in Hollywood. But we did all right. We didn't become drug addicts and then apparently, allegedly, violently murder our parents, which was the subject of my last video. But in watching that movie again, or considering that movie again, that movie Being Charlie, and thinking of what, sort of where things went with it. And there's an interview with someone, I should know his name, but I don't. But I saw one of the members of the Dopey podcast. Okay, there were two guys who did the Dopey podcast, and one of them, these were two ex-addicts who talked about addiction but who kind of kept it light and sometimes told funny stories about the crazy messed up things that they would do when they were addicted. And they had sometimes like famous people on or semi-famous people on to talk about their own struggles with addiction, and the whole idea was, we're going to come on and just be honest about it all. And Nick was one of their guests. Nick Reiner was a guest on their show a few times, and so one of the Dopey guys is on this YouTube video with a guy named Hamilton. And this Hamilton guy, he's got it going on. At least he did in this interview. He nailed it. He talked about how he went back and watched Being Charlie, and for him it was just and watching the movie itself and the sort of untenable way in which the movie was made, because originally, apparently, the original script by Nick Reiner was just about written from his point of view, about his experiences. And the thing is, if you're an addict, or if you're anybody who's struggling with, and part of what you're struggling with involves your upbringing, then you want to hear honestly from that guy's point of view. And hearing honestly from that guy's point of view means that the people who raised you aren't necessarily going to come off that great. If you have, and it might wind up being wind up being unfair or unbalanced or mean-spirited, even. And it shouldn't be seen as, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But it is the truth from the point of view of the struggling person. So if this movie had been made, or if some project had been made, a movie or not, maybe, just if a book had been written by Nick Reiner, or some other project that just involved Nick Reiner, and it was, him writing autobiographically, or semi-autobiographically, and the main antagonist wasn't also producing and directing the project, which is what happened with Being Charlie, then you would have probably seen a different kind of movie. What Nick says in one of these interviews that he's on with his dad, where they're sitting together uncomfortably, and Rob is doing just about all of the talking, and Nick is sitting there for most of it. Occasionally, there are some where he just looks totally out of it. He looks defeated. He looks like he doesn't want to be there. And again, my original viewing of these videos was to say to myself, well, Rob is doing his best to be the good dad, to try to say, he goes out of his way to say, oh, we sent you to all of these places, we sent you to these rehabilitation places where they did tough love, but now I see that really wasn't what I should have done. I should have listened to my gut and been compassionate towards you instead of kicking you out and making you go to I don't know how many different centers, different one is tempted to call them scam centers, because they take the money of wealthy people who are addicted, and often they become repeat clients because whatever their program is doesn't apparently work all that well. Although I guess it works if you work it, right? AA folks, isn't that what your mantra is? I don't mean that to sound snarky, but these sort of programs, AA doesn't take money. These programs were thousands of dollars tuition, and so anyway, the point of the movie, when you watch the movie with this new kind of perspective, what you see is that the father character ends up living out what seems like it's Rob's fantasy, what one could conclude. I don't want to be unfair, because I mean we don't know either of these people, but we do know that Rob Reiner was very into left-wing politics, and he talked about getting involved more, and he says he considered running for governor of California, and said that he only had 40% of his family's support. So we don't know who gave the thumbs up. We don't know who gave him the thumbs down. There were 4 other people. How do you get 40% with 4 other people, unless he's including himself? If with 5 people, then it would be, each person would be 20%. So he must be including himself when he says he only pulled 40% with his own family, and that was like a self-effacing line where like how could I possibly carry the state when I can't even get the majority of my own family to get behind me? But that, in any case, I mean, that means that he voted for himself, and somebody else in his family voted for him, but the three others did not. And one can speculate who the other yes voter was, and who the 3 no voters were. In any case, what we do know from this story, and it's told in a self-effacing way, which Rob has or had, and it's what makes him likable, even if you find him insufferable with his political rants and everything. It's what generally has made him personally likable when you talk to him, is that he's self-effacing. He seems down to earth. He just seems like a dad, like a big old teddy bear kind of guy, and it's very disarming. But what I think you find if you watch these interviews, which are still out there, you can find them. I mean, they're all over YouTube. These interviews that they did together, and you can also find people's analysis, and I'm sure there's tons of body language analysis stuff that's out there now. Yeah, I don't know what all the body language people are saying, and whether it's bogus or whether it's actually astute. But what I would say from those videos, what can be gleaned, is that this became Rob's project. This started as the story of Nick struggling to recover, struggling to make his recovery from being the family fuck up, from being what I called before everybody's scapegoat. We all hate people who have it all, who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they can't even get it together, and they mess things up for everybody. It's like we have license to hate somebody like Rob Reiner. We feel that we do, because we feel that with all of the things we struggle with, and we're just scratching to get by, he's got whatever daddy gave him. Again, the condescending way of talking about these people, saying, oh, you had daddy's money. Oh, daddy bailed you out again, huh? And so forth. Well, if the point is, if he was supposed to make a movie about struggling to recover from addiction, then that movie needed to be from his point of view. It needed like Hamilton says in this like this Hamilton guy says in this interview with the Dopey podcast guy, which I will link below. I will make an extra effort to remember to link it below. He points out that there's something really untenable about Rob Reiner being the producer and the director of this movie that's supposed to be about his son's struggles with with him, because in the movie, the character, the stand-in equivalent of Rob Reiner's character, Carrie Elwes, is this former actor who's now running for governor, and so Nick, meanwhile, is struggling with addiction. He's in and out of rehab, and getting together with his drug addicted friend and partying, and then getting clean for a little while, and then something else sets him off, and he's it seems like it seems like a compassionate take on Nick's character's struggles, until you consider it in its totality. When you consider the movie in its totality, and I invite you to watch it if you want to watch, if you're interested, take a look for yourself. See if you think I'm right, or if you think I'm totally off base here. Because I know a lot of people just hate me, or don't hate me. I don't want to be overly dramatic. You don't even know me. But I know a lot of people really don't want to hear the things that I'm saying here. And think that I'm just making excuses for a drug addicted double murderer of his own parents. I'm not making excuses. I'm not pardoning anything. I'm not saying don't judge the act as terrible, because obviously the act was terrible. What I'm saying is, we don't know what the story is. We don't know what led things to that point. That was the main thrust of my point in that last video. And what I'm saying here is, if you watch the movie, the 2015 movie Being Charlie, what you will find, I think, if you pay attention, is that the dad character ends up getting what he wants. He wins. He thinks his son is going to be a thorn in his heel. It's going to keep him from getting votes, and that's what the polls are saying. And so it looks like he's going to lose. He's not going to end up being the governor after all. He's going to lose to a Republican. Oh no! And then, through some miracle, even a Republican district of California, and I know there are such places, even that district ends up coming through for Rob's alter ego character, and he ends up winning the governorship. So he gets what he wants. He wins. This becomes a wish fulfillment fantasy for Rob Reiner. He gets to be the governor of California. and then Nick gets to he gets to have something where he says to his son, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have listened to all those people telling me to employ tough love. I should have had more compassion on you. So we get to see him, treating his son nicely in the end. And then, and then they hug, and they reconcile. And the only thing we hear Nick's character, the alter ego equivalent of Nick's character, the only thing we hear him say is, I started taking drugs because I had to get rid of the noise. The noise was too much. And then the drugs, then after a while, I found the drugs just added to the noise. They just made the noise worse. So we just hear him refer to the noise. What the hell is the noise? What is the noise? What caused the noise? We don't know. We don't hear anything else but that. There's no other explanation. Not that a movie has to explain anything. Not that art should explain something. per se, like a math equation, but we should be given some kind of, there should be some kind of indication, some kind of suggestion about what really brought this about, what made this young guy who had everything, decide to get on hard drugs. You don't just get on hard drugs for the hell of it. You don't just get on hard drugs because why not? You get on hard drugs because, well, because you're trying. He calls it the noise. I would call it pain. I would call it trauma. Where was that pain? What was that trauma? I'm not willing to say. I'm not willing to square that circle in the way that some others are, but I'm open to that question. I'm open to that possibility. I'll just say, because why you ask? Because this is fucking Hollywood. Do you hear me? This is Hollywood. And what happens to children in Hollywood? What has happened over and over and over and over again to children in Hollywood? Look at Drew Barrymore. She was a drug addict and a alcoholic at age 10, hanging out with a bunch of adults. I mean, this isn't Pizzagate, conspiracy theory. This isn't me being some goofy tinfoil hat guy. This is a part of the record. This is part of the historical record. Look at what happened to tons and tons of other young actors, young people. Watch An Open Secret. So when I hear this young man, this teenage boy, starts getting on hard drugs, what do I think? And knowing his proximity to Hollywood, I think abuse. I make the connection to abuse. No, as far as who the abuser was, I'm not willing to go there. I don't know, but I don't think it's a crazy, out there, outlandish, conspiracy theorist thing to say. Even though I'm fine being a conspiracy theorist, because I think plenty of things that get called conspiracy theory are perfectly reasonable and have turned out to be true over and over and over again. But even if you don't want to believe that, even if you want to dismiss conspiracy theory, just look at reality, look at facts, look at what happens to young people in the entertainment industry over and over and over and over again. Look at Jake Lloyd, the little kid who played Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, 1999. Now, I haven't heard anything. I've never heard that Jake Lloyd was abused, but I sure as hell believe he was, because what did he become? What kind of lifestyle is he leading now, or has he been leading for the last few years? This is part of a major problem. Okay. And again, just to get back before I finish up here, to get back to the movie, the movie is basically, yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree with Hamilton, with the Hamilton YouTuber. The movie is ultimately because Rob Reiner had to get involved in this movie about his son. Why can't he couldn't have just said, look, this is Nick's story. He needs to tell it. Let him tell it. I'm going to stay the hell out of this. He's my son. I love him. He's struggling with what he's struggling with. He needs to tell the truth as he sees it, because that's the only way we get real art, is when someone is given a chance to tell the truth as he sees it. I don't need to horn in here. I don't need to make this, to make this the Nick and Rob show. I don't need to become, the dad figure who's running for governor and who gets to be governor in the end, and who gets to say nice things to his son and gets to be exonerated in every way. And his son just says, I couldn't handle the noise. What was the noise? What was the noise? What's the noise? There's no answer is given in the movie about what this so-called noise was. So anyhow, those are my thoughts on the movie Being Charlie. Those are my reconsidered thoughts on it. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Thanks for watching.